Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're looking into some really compelling stuff. We've got just one source, but it's fascinating. An article from almamento.mx back in April 2019. It's called En el Nuevo Orden Mundial, 13 Familias Gobiernan al Mundo.
Which translates roughly to, in the New World Order, 13 families rule the world.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack what this article is claiming. We want to pull out the key ideas, the specific groups and methods it talks about, and just understand the story it's telling about who might be pulling the strings. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do that. This source definitely presents a very specific view on global power. What I find interesting is how it tries to link these old ideas, things like lineage and, ancient wealth, to today's institutions,
Right.
to try and explain why things are the way they are, or at least how the article sees them. So we'll break down those arguments, how it connects the dots, and what it says this all means for everyone else.
Okay, so the article starts pretty strong. It talks about recent global events, changes in society, suggesting something strange is happening. An army somber, a shadowy army, it says, behind big companies trying to steer the world. What's the main thrust here? What's the core claim about this force?
The absolute core claim, right from the source, is that there are 13 specific families. And these families govern the world under what it calls a New World Order.
13 families.
13. And the article alleges their power comes from, get this, being direct descendants of ancient gods. They claim a royal lineage.
Wow, okay. Descendants of gods. And it doesn't just leave it there, right? It actually names names.
It does, yeah. It lays out the list. You ready?
Lay it on us.
Okay, according to the source. Rothschild, Bruce, Cavendish, which it connects to the Kennedys, Windsor, Warburg, Sinclair, Hanover, de Medici, Habsburg, Krupp, Plantagenet, Romanov, and Rockefeller.
That's quite a mix of familiar and maybe less familiar names.
Exactly. And it adds this detail that around 1% of the population, this elite, supposedly controls the other 99%.
And didn't the article mention someone specific who supposedly brought this information out?
Yes, it points to Fritz Springmeier. It says he shed light on these elite lineages. And like you said, the source notes some names are historical staples, others maybe fly under the radar a bit more.
Okay, so those are the top 13. But the article suggests the network is bigger, that there are other families involved, maybe lower down the ladder.
That's right, yeah. It mentions others being related, sort of hierarchically below the main 13. It lists the Merovingian family, Astor, DuPont, and Onassis.
Interesting.
And then it adds the Bush family claiming lineage from emperors and Roman pharaohs, which is quite a statement, and the Clinton families into this extended group as well.
Okay, quite the network being described here. Now, among that top 13, does the article single anyone out? Is there a family that sits at the very top?
It does. According to this source, the Rothschild family is the most powerful of them all. It claims they control the other 12.
And how? What gives them that alleged power?
Well, it comes down to money. Enormous wealth, the article says. It estimates their fortune around $500 trillion.
Wait, 500 trillion?
That's the number in the article, yeah.
Yeah.
It explicitly says this is the largest fortune on the planet, much beyond Bill Gates.
That's hard to even comprehend. And it ties them directly into global finance, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. The article states the Rothschild family, and names Jacob de Rothschild as the leader, controls almost all banks. It goes on to claim they were the creators of the first central bank of England,
Okay.
and that, quote, all central banks of the world are under the mandate of said family. A very sweeping claim.
Extremely sweeping. So if these families, especially the Rothschilds, supposedly have this much influence, how do they maintain it? The article mentions specific institutions, right? These control organs.
Yes, it does. It describes 4 key entities as being like states within other states. The idea presented is that they're legally untouchable, immune to external laws.
Oh, okay, what are they?
They are Vatican City, which it specifies is not part of Italy, the City of London, the financial district not part of the UK proper, the Federal Reserve, claimed not to be part of the U.S. government, and Washington, D.C., also stated as not being part of the United States.
Ah.
And the article asserts no court of justice or other legal institution in the world is able to prosecute them.
So beyond these sort of quasi-state entities, what about the groups we often hear about in conspiracy theories? The secret societies, do they fit into this picture?
They do, yeah. The article claims that well-known secret societies, it lists the Illuminati, putting them at the top of the pyramid, the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, various Masonic lodges.
Which one specifically?
It names the Grand Orient of France and Ordo Templorum Orientalis, OTO. Also Skull and Bones, Prieur de Sion, La Société des Fabiens, the Fabian Society, and Bohemian Grove. It claims all of these are administered by the Council of 13 Families.
Administered by them.
Yes, and that they serve the interests of big multinational corporations.
Okay, but what about the members of these societies? Are they in on this grand plan, according to the article?
That's an interesting point the article makes. It suggests that no, these members, while they serve the 13 families, they are not part of them. They apparently don't know who their true masters are or what the ultimate Machiavellian projects might be.
So they're being used.
Essentially, yes, depicted as pawns.
And
Important pawns, perhaps, with more influence than the average person, but still, quote, even more manipulated than us.
Right. So we have the families, the institutions, the secret societies. The article then talks about how the rest of us, the 99%, are kept under control. It uses the term brainwashing. Let's unpack those tools, starting with education. What's the claim there?
The source argues education is a key tool. It suggests that our standardized education creates a single current of majority thought, and that this prevents students from developing or using critical thinking skills to challenge the system. It basically says schools focus on memorization without real understanding, calling the system obsolete, especially now with the internet. It does briefly mention Finland as doing things differently as an exception.
It frames education not as empowerment, but as a tool for conformity. That's quite the take. It certainly makes you think about how we learn and process information, even outside of school.
It really does. It questions the very foundation of how knowledge is typically passed down.
Okay, another big tool mentioned is money itself. How is money framed as a control mechanism?
Well, the article states it plainly. Money is power, because it lets you buy pretty much anything and almost anyone.
Right.
It suggests people become slaves of their work, slaves of money, chasing the security it seems to offer. But it calls this security just an appearance, pointing to the 1929 crash as an example of how fragile it can be.
And it calls it the financial system itself.
The main source of slavery of recent times? A very strong statement.
And that connects right back to the earlier claim about the Rothschilds and their alleged control over banks, central banks.
Exactly. It all ties together in the narrative presented by the source.
Okay, so education, money. What about healthcare? How does that fit into the alleged control system?
This is another provocative area. The source claims the word health has lost its meaning. It says the current system just treats symptoms, physical symptoms and pains, without addressing the root cause.
And it contrasts this with what?
With what it calls early 20th century natural medicine, things like using plants, homeopathy, focusing on sports and lifestyle. And then it alleges that the Rockefeller family specifically infiltrated education, especially medical schools in the U.S.,
Okay.
and that this infiltration gradually marked the end of natural medicine. So it's proposing a deliberate shift away from older, perhaps holistic methods towards a symptom-focused, pharmaceutical-based model driven by these powerful families.
That's definitely an alternative view of medical history. Next up, the media. How does the article claim information is controlled?
Unsurprisingly, it claims the media are controlled by the same people who supposedly run the financial system.
The elite families.
Right. And because of this alleged control, the article asserts that the media never mention these topics of elite control and hidden agendas. It makes an exception for Russia, saying things sometimes get mentioned there, but claims that those who speak out are quickly silenced even then.
So the news we consume, the stories we hear, the article suggests it's all carefully curated or censored as part of this larger control mechanism. What about the justice system? Is that also portrayed as a tool?
Yes, it is. The article argues that the law, as it exists, tends more to subjugate peoples than to grant them rights. It paints a picture where corruption is everything. And it states that the governing elite sees us as money cows, basically, resources to be exploited to maintain their own extravagant lifestyle.
Wow. Okay, and finally, what about governments, politicians, international bodies like the UN? Where do they fit in this alleged structure?
The source is pretty cynical here. It says many people still believe in politics, but argues that presidents, most politicians, they're essentially powerless, trapped in a vice, specifically the vice of the financial markets.
So voting doesn't matter in this view.
It claims the system just keeps going while people continue voting and delegating power to others.
Yeah.
It implies that participation legitimizes a rigged system. And as for institutions like the UN,
Yeah.
the article dismisses them as only pawns, created, it says, to give the illusion that global problems are being addressed when in reality it is not.
Hmm.
It even claims they intentionally foster division among people, using our differences as a pretext.
So, after painting this incredibly detailed and frankly quite bleak picture of pervasive control, does the article offer any way out? It ends on a hopeful note, you said.
Surprisingly, yes. It shifts tone quite a bit at the end. It suggests that just questioning the system is a good start. That searching for answers to your questions already is a big step towards freedom. It encourages people to keep learning, keep documenting, and work towards regaining sovereignty.
And it mentions something about a force working against these controllers.
It did. The article concludes by stating that all the groups that act against the interests of humanity are being gradually unmasked. It sounds quite confident, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it says, we can be sure that they will not achieve their final objective, the establishment of a new world order. It even goes so far as to claim that this elite is being dismantled to be brought before justice.
Well, that is certainly quite the journey through one article's perspective. A deep dive indeed. We've gone from the 13 families, the alleged descendants of gods,
Mm-hmm.
through their supposed control over banks, institutions, secret societies.
And the tools they allegedly use: education, money, healthcare, media, law, government.
All the way to a prediction of their imminent downfall.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how the article weaves together so many different aspects of society: finance, politics, health, information, and attributes them all to this single grand conspiracy narrative. It offers a very complete, if highly controversial, explanation for why things might feel wrong or controlled in the world.
It definitely provides a framework. So as we wrap up, here's something for you, our listener, to think about. This article itself suggests that questioning things, seeking answers, that's the path to freedom from this kind of alleged control. If that's the case, what responsibility does that place on you to actively seek out information, to weigh different perspectives, and to form your own conclusions about the complex forces shaping our world?